board meeting, Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, 5:30 PM. Madam, roll call.
Chairperson Miller Anderson,
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Botel,
Here.
Board Member McCoy,
Here.
Board Member Lanier, Board Member Lawson, City Attorney.
Are we on?
Okay.
Not yet.
What? Do we call the
Yeah.
district attorney?
Mhm.
Okay.
Are we live or we starting over? That's a very trendy color right now. This one. You know, Kylie Jenner, Kylie Cosmetics. They do Kylie Kardashian, Jenner Brown. She wears that color all the time.
The meeting is about to start. Meeting is about to start.
Okay, we can.
Good. All right. We have a,
Yes, we have a, are we starting over or just continue?
Probably start over.
We're gonna start over.
all right,
Oh,
we'll,
okay.
the Utility Special District Board Meeting, Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, 5:30 PM. Madam, roll call.
Chairperson Miller Anderson,
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Botel.
Here.
Board Member McCoy.
Here.
Board Member Lanier, Board Member Lawson, City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
Assistant City Manager Deirdre Jacobs, District Attorney,
Lina Busby in place of Don Wynn.
and Deborah Hall, in for District Clerk Claudine Anthony. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, and we'd like to have a moment of silence for our fallen officer, Mr. Jackson, who we lost earlier in the week. We'll have a Pledge of Allegiance with Mr. McCoy.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Madam Chair, we do have an addition. If I can have the interim district director provide the information concerning that one.
Madam Chair, there is one addition. It deals with the city's need to upgrade its SCADA system.
Okay, where is that going to go?
It's a resolution that will be added.
We can do that one after item 4,
All right, so 4A,
4A. Yes, Madam Chair.
and that's called what now?
An upgrade to the city's SCADA system.
And you can explain all of that when we get there.
SCADA.
All right, let the record reflect Mr. Lawson's on the desk. All right, any other additions, deletions, substitutions? Disclosures by the board of directors? Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
That's the addition.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Botel,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
All right, all matters listed under the consent agenda item, under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do we have any board members that would like to pull anything? All right,
Move to consent, Madam Chair.
all right.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Botel,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please fill out a public comment card located on the table directly outside of the council chambers and give it to the staff prior to the item being taken up by the Board of Directors for discussion. Members of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each regular agenda item. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card and speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read or item considered. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 PM unless there is no further business of the Board of Directors, which in that event, it shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30 PM, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located on the table directly outside of the council chambers and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. Regular agenda item number 2.
Resolution number 4219 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, excuse me, approving the materials and/or service contract with Global Tech, Inc., Boca Raton, Florida, by cooperative agreement on their contract with Palm Beach County for design-build services, authorizing the chairperson and district clerk to execute said contract and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair and members of the board, if I can have the Assistant City Manager and her team present this particular item to the district.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Madam Chair, this particular matter deals with the contract that the USD wants to enter into with Global Tech for design-build services. There are certain improvements that need to be made to our water treatment plant. This particular item will help us to, or these particular improvements will help us to make sure that our consent order items that we're up under the Department of Health are met.
All right. We don't have any public comment cards, correct?
There are no public comment cards for this item, Madam Chair.
All right. We have any comments or questions from the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so is this resolution authorizing us to enter into a, is this resolution authorizing us to enter into a contract? And I guess the amount is to be determined at a
Yes,
later
sir.
point?
Yes, sir.
So, there was a reference in the back of RFP from 2018, I believe it was. Was the RFP based upon qualifications and not so much a price proposal?
This particular company, along with the other one in item number 3, they were actually piggyback contracts from Palm Beach County.
And we'll be using those same terms and same, I guess, pricing?
Yes, sir. What we did is we delineated the proposed cost of the particular improvements as a part of the memo that's attached to this agenda item, and I think it's around $13 million or no more than for both items number 2 and number 3.
Oh, you have any other questions, Mr. McCoy?
We have a presentation as well, if you're interested
Yes.
Yeah.
in seeing it. Okay.
Thank you.
Our consultant from Brown and Caldwell, Mr. Nigel Grace, can present to you the PowerPoint presentation that was put together.
Okay. I
And
thought
what
you
it-
were done. That's why I went to questions up
Oh,
here.
okay. It delineates some of the improvements that will be undertaken
All
by
right.
these two companies.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Nigel Grace, for the record, with Brown and Caldwell, a consultant that's been supporting the city in a variety of areas related to the utility service districts and the needs associated with the water treatment system. Pretty much this presentation is just a high-level overview of what's driving these two contracts, the Global Tech contract as well as the Cardinal contract, the type of needs that are to be addressed, and why these projects are important, and why the piggyback arrangement that we're using with the Palm Beach County. So we're going to give a little high-level overview of the background and the objectives, we're going to characterize some of the needs at the water treatment plant, and then we're going to get down to the business that Commissioner McCoy, I think, will speak specifically to some of the questions you're asking. So your treatment facility is old. The older elements of the treatment plant, which is a substantial portion of the overall process, was built back in the late 50s. Some of the newer components date the late 70s. So we're looking at 50 to 60 years old for the most part. For much of the life of the system, it hasn't been maintained and upkept to the level necessary to maintain the desired degree of reliability and function. In addition to that, drinking water regulations have progressed considerably since the infrastructure was put in place. So it's dated infrastructure. And as I think the board is aware, back in 2016, the district entered into a consent order with the Department of Health that mandated a number of improvements be made. This action before the board today will provide for the piggy bank contract mechanism that will allow the city to deliver a number of remaining improvements at the plant that have not yet been addressed. Let's take a little bit of a high-level look at some of the improvements. The city has made significant progress in implementing consent order improvements to date, but there's work to be done. So this contract mechanism that's before you is going to target the remaining elements of work that need to be done to close out the specific obligations that the city has under its consent order.
Let the record reflect Councilwoman Lanier's on the dais. Thank you.
As you can see, 33 of, I believe, 61 items have already been completed. 24 projects are in various stages of progression, but the district is facing July 2021 deadline to wrap up all the projects. And the reality is that to meet that deadline, we needed an expedited approach to get to that point. But more on that in a few minutes. Some of the improvements that we're looking to address here are highlighted here. We have equipment, major equipment that has not been operable for many years that need to be replaced and upgraded to provide the necessary performance and function that's needed to meet expected treatment requirements. There are a variety of improvements here ranging from chemical feed systems that need upgrades to standby generators that haven't worked for years, as well as other process improvements such as the filtration process. We're all aware of the North Chemical building that's been structurally compromised for a number of years. One of the priorities of the district is to expedite the removal of remaining operating elements within that building to eliminate the need for operators and maintenance staff to have to enter that structure for any reason. So we've got electrical gear that's located there, as well as control equipment. The district continues to feed gas chlorine out of that building. Not only are we looking to eliminate the continued feeding of gas chlorine, but we're looking to move away from gas chlorine altogether. So one of the projects we're looking at here is to expedite the implementation of sodium hypochlorite, which is a solution. It's an aqueous solution that does not embody the risks associated with gas chlorine. In addition to that, there is lime feeding equipment that's located in the North Chemical building that's no longer available for use for treatment. The consequence of that is that the water that flows through that portion of the treatment process is not subject to lime softening. And that in part, I think, is an underlying factor contributing to some of the customer concerns that have been raised in recent years. So these two contract mechanisms, are with design build firms that this is the type of project they do on a regular basis. Both firms are under Palm Beach County, under contract with Palm Beach County to deliver similar services. That was a competitively selected process, and Riviera Beach will enjoy the same terms and conditions that are available to to Palm Beach County. So basically, by bringing them on the board, the action that's before you tonight is to approve the use of these contracting mechanisms for both of these firms to operate. Beyond that, this step tonight, then each firm will be brought on board, oriented into the specific needs. Specific projects will be assigned to each firm, following which they will develop proposals, detailed proposals that represent their guaranteed maximum price to do the work. And once those prices are agreed on for each project, they will then, on a turnkey basis, implement the design, the permitting, and the actual construction of the improvements. So it's one point of connectivity to each of these firms, and they'll take responsibility for working together with the city to deliver these solutions. And that eliminates a number of sequential procurement steps and delivery steps that would otherwise challenge the ability to meet the June 2021 completion deadline under the consent order. So beyond tonight's action, the board can expect to see a number of additional items come before you in the weeks and months to come as projects are rolled out and these guaranteed maximum price proposals are developed. And again, these price proposals will embody the same terms and conditions that exist with the county. The materials that are procured will be competitively selected and procured under these, so you preserve the competitiveness, while at the same time you have two firms that have gone through a rather rigorous qualifications-based selection process by Palm Beach County. So it's really the best of all worlds. So with that said, here's a list of the projects. Not all of these individual projects will necessarily be among the first flush, but we've identified the range of projects that will be candidates for implementation here. Many of them have direct or indirect ties to the consent order. Some of them are consequential improvements. For example, the consent order may say, well, replace a certain type of equipment, but the system may lack the appropriate monitoring and controls and systems to allow even a replacement piece of equipment to work properly. So here we would additionally identify the supplemental improvements needed to achieve the performance objectives as part of the work. So wherever there's a project here that's not directly enumerated on the consent order, is somewhat related in order to be able to get the most out of this particular facility. And again, I remind you, this plant is working with 50 to 60-year technology. So for these specific systems, this will kind of bring the technological capabilities into the current, right? So you'll still have a lime softening plant. It will still be limited in what it can deliver. But for the next few years, in the intervening time until you migrate to a more robust, modern technology, we need to be able to extract the best we can get out of this facility. And that's what these projects are intended to do. So with that, the city went through a process. As you're aware, the city has been kind of reallocating some of its capital spending needs to set aside monies that will contribute to the future water plant. Well, the city went through its capital program and identified various buckets of existing funds that could be reserved to help pay for some of these projects. So this is not saying that this is the cost for these improvements. This is just basically saying these are the elements of the existing CIP that's been reserved and allocated for some of these projects. In parallel with this, the city is taking a number of aggressive steps to reach out for supplemental funding through grant programs. And I know just a week or two ago, the city got notification of supplemental funding for other projects related to the overall project capital program. So the city is taking a number of steps to really maximize use of the funding sources available to it. But this is kind of the backstop. These are the available dollars that will keep the identified projects moving. So that's the presentation, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
thank you. I know we will be asked whether these expenditures will be made obsolete by a new water treatment plant, and the answer obviously is yes, because this will all go away. So I guess the next question that we'll get from people is, will these expenditures improve in the short term the quality of our drinking water?
And the answer is also yes.
So we almost have to do these things, because if we don't, things could deteriorate even further. And although these expenditures will be made obsolete in the future, for now, we have to undertake them.
Absolutely. And one of recognizing that reality, one of the things that we're going to be working together with the city and each of these design build consultants to ensure that, you know, we don't put the Cadillac over there, right? You need a good, reliable Hyundai with a good warranty, and you know, if you can get by with one of a given piece of equipment, then let's do that. But we're also mindful of, you know, the residents have struggled a lot with color concerns and various concerns, and due to unreliable equipment, you know, 1 week it may be working right, and the next week it's in a failed state, and the water quality changes. And change is the one thing that your customers detect very quickly. So we're mindful of what is being spent here, but we want to achieve a level of consistency, so that, you know, whether the new water plant is ready in 5 years or 6 or 4 years, we want that intervening time to be basically, you know, a level of a period of consistent water quality. May not be perfect, may not be what you ultimately want, but we're looking for consistency. So we're trying to be very judicious in how we allocate the dollars, but at the same time mindful that, you know, citizens of Riviera Beach need some tangible improvement in their water quality.
Another question, it's somewhat tangential to this. Could you please explain in layman's terms this free chlorine process that we're going to be undertaking in January?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, that was going to be one of the items we were going to
okay.
discuss
Thank you.
later.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, if I may also to add on to that, staff has combed through the capital improvements plan for the district and has found the funding to be able to allow for this project to be able to come to life. And the analysis that was conducted, it was looking at the CIP and looking versus needs and wants. And now as we're taking the steps to look to move forward with the new treatment process, these particular funding projects that we've identified are projects that would have continued or looked to enhance the existing process that we have in place. And obviously, we're looking to deviate from that. But also one thing that the Vice Chair mentioned about this project making some improvements to the water quality, the other side of it is with the consent order and the compliance, because if we're not in compliance with that, and Mr. Nigel Grace, if you can also communicate that if we're not in compliance, the regulatory agencies can come in and fix the problem, and then you're still on the hook to pay for the costs associated with that.
Yes, absolutely. They have options available to them, ranging from fines all the way to basically removing operational responsibility for the facility. And certainly, in part of that is forcing the improvements, probably more extreme than you would do on your own, to be implemented. So it's in the district's best interest to be proactive and aggressive in demonstrating to them a commitment to meet all these requirements on schedule.
And that is the reason why we looked at the expedited procurement process through the cooperative agreement with the county to be able to move forward with these projects, because our concern is if we broke it down and then went through a traditional procurement process, you are really going to be very close to the time in which the regulatory agencies have asked us to comply with. So this, in essence, allows for us to move forward, to correct those issues, and utilize existing funds that we have identified from other projects.
Could someone close the door for me, please, so that we don't have that noise coming in? Thank you. You had a question, Ms. Lanier?
No, I was just wanted to say that I'm glad to see that this piggyback contract was initially procured with small business and minority business participation in mind. And I look forward to other contracts that come before us and projects to go through that process as well.
I agree, and I think that's another benefit of using the Palm Beach, because they have a pretty well-developed, structured program for this, and all of those things that have been developed by them for years now flows down to
Yeah, because
Riviera
typically,
Beach.
these projects don't go through minority business participation, so that's a good thing.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To that point about the minority participation, I want to also point to Ms. Busby's attention, just informational. If we're doing design build, I did notice on Global Tech, their minority sub is one of our members of our P&Z board, so that would definitely potentially present some recusal. So I want you to definitely be aware of that, because I'm certainly happy to see that he does work with the county, but I want to make sure that if there's any site plans that's going to be associated with this, that, you know, he's aware of it ahead of time, even if he's not actually participating in it, so that he takes the necessary steps to, you know, protect himself. Also, so I guess the piggyback, what I'm understanding is the scope isn't the same as the county. We're just using the county, I guess, agreement that they currently have with Global Tech and Cardinal, I believe, to procure those rates. Is that what it is?
Correct. So Global Tech and Cardinal were both selected based on qualifications-based criteria. And they've been doing this and performing in this manner with the county for several years. Now, the contract has, you know, core rates built into it and other elements that used to build up to the project-specific costs for what Riviera Beach is going to need. And it stipulates kind of the terms and conditions that are allowed by the county in formulating the guaranteed maximum price. So basically all the rules of engagement that relate to their work with the Palm Beach County then flows to Riviera Beach, and their process of developing the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, would follow the same rules and conditions that apply to their work in Palm Beach County.
And we'll see that again.
Yes, you will see that. For each project that they're assigned, you will have a board item that you will have to approve.
Okay.
This is just establishing the contract mechanism and the basically the authority of staff to engage with each of these firms to begin the process of developing their detailed price proposals.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
One last question, Mr. Grace. So, or Mr. Manager, who, if anyone, have we designated to be the project manager overseeing this? Is this going to be Ms. Jacobs, or is there someone that's going to be project managing from our side? Or is it going to be Mr. Grace?
It's most likely going to be Mr. Grace and then some staff assistants to manage that. It probably will be involved, the engineers, Ms. McNichols or Mr. Armstrong may be involved in the project management element of the item that's before you this evening.
Madam Chair, that's correct. It'll be our city engineers along with our consultant, Brown and Caldwell.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Botel,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 3.
Resolution number 4319, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the materials and/or service contract with Cardinal Contractors, Inc., Bradenton, Florida, by cooperative agreement on their contract with Palm Beach County for design-build services, authorizing the chairperson and district clerk to execute said contract and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if I can have the Assistant City Manager, Mrs. Jacobs, present this item along with staff from the district.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Madam Chair, this particular item is no different than the prior one, with the exception of this contract will be executed with Cardinal Contractors for the exact same services. And The distinction is our services that were mentioned earlier, they'll be divided up depending on the different contractor with regards to who would be more appropriate to perform the various services.
All right. Any public comment cards on this item?
There are no public comment cards for this item.
All right. Do you all need to see a presentation? All right. Any questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 4.
Item number 4, resolution number 4419 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, to correct a 2018 administrative oversight by authorizing the Utility District Board Chairperson to execute Exhibit C, Mueller Systems Master Agreement 2, and providing an effective date.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if I can have the Assistant City Manager, Ms. Deirdre Jacobs, and Utility District staff present this item.
Madam Chair, this item will be presented by Mr. Randy Sherman.
All right.
Good evening, Randy
Good
Sherman, District Finance Director. Back in March of 2018, the Utility Director brought forward 4 contracts for the change-out of the meters. There was a contract to purchase the meters, a contract to install the meters, a contract for the software that runs the meters, and then the 4th contract was an ongoing materials purchase to go after the meters that have been installed for replacement meters. The contract for the software included Exhibit C, which was the master agreement for the software provider. That Exhibit C required a signature. Unfortunately, at the time of the approval, that signature was missed. So what we'll bring back, I spoke to the chair, spoke to legal. They thought it best that we actually bring it back since the board has changed. So even though this agreement was originally approved back in 2018, the signature was missed, and we're just trying to correct the record. Now that we're just about ready to implement fully, finish installing the last few hundred meters, it was actually Ferguson that noticed that the signature was missing, and we just need the authority for the signature to be applied.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so if Vice Chair Botel refuses to sign, does that make us not on the hook with Ferguson?
It would, no, you'd be on the hook for the purchases, all the meters, but they wouldn't work.
Well, that might be a benefit to some of the customers that I know that have complained about the usage and the readings being so accurate. Follow up. So, is it possible going forward? I know we're working on some website designs to put our USD charter online, because the only thing I have is a huge binder, and let me tell you how difficult it is to navigate through that. But I was particularly interested in what exactly was contained in USD Charter Section 3.04. But I trust that it was just something that's technical in nature. But I would like to kind of have that, more or less in a PDF format, so that you can kind of just jump right to it, as opposed to going through voluminous documents just to find what authority this is that grants our vice chair so much power here. So so that's all I have.
It's not a problem. We can do that.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Botel.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
That's a unanimous vote.
All right. Item 4A, which was added at the beginning. That's what you have before you now.
Item 4A, resolution number 4519 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, to upgrade the supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA system, to comply with federal homeland security standards, authorizing the Utility Special District's Finance Director to make payment from project number 18146 in an amount not to exceed $160,000 and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, this item before you is to request authorization to proceed forward with upgrading the SCADA system. The SCADA system is utilized to provide chemical dosing to water plant operations. The current platform that the system is on is archaic and aging, and at the request of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, we are mandated to go ahead and make appropriate modifications on the software side to in order to comply with what the recommendation is. So this item is to effectively memorialize that and to get our system in standard with what is required by the federal government. Staff recommends approval and is prepared to answer any questions the board may have.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? All right,
With one question,
go ahead.
and I know if this is probably better offline, but would this be, because it deals with our treatment of our water, would this be considered something that we would typically have this discussion in, a closed meeting or something like that, related to security and certain items that are exempt from public?
Councilman, we probably could have entertained this item offline, but I think staff, with the sense of urgency, we wanted to get this item before the council or the board as quickly as possible, and this meeting being the last one before the year is ended. It was just an opportune moment to effectively do that, but staff did make sure that they scrubbed the document to ensure that nothing here is going to jeopardize the integrity of the network or the infrastructure. However, it is imperative that we move forward with this particular item.
Thank you.
All
Madam
right.
Chair,
Yes.
that is accurate. There's nothing in the background that compromises our
Well,
security.
just reading the resolution, I mean, I kind of seen some buzzwords in there that would have kind of suggested that this is probably something I would have rather, which I really look forward to us having a closed session to talk about some security protocols, which I think we're provided under the statute to close our meetings for. So there's no problem, so thank you.
All right. Everybody good? All right, Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Botel.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier. Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, discussion and deliberation, item number 5.
Item number 5, discussion regarding the Utility Assistance Program, UAP.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, I have the Utility District Finance Director here, Mr. Sherman, to provide some updates and insight with regards to the program that we have discussed on this dais. Staff did take an opportunity to look at the existing policy and to try to make modifications and tweaks to the program. And I think the glaring modification that we would recommend would be something as it relates to marketing and communication as the program is, because when we look to try to make some tweaks and modifications, the questions that invariably were asked were answered, and the program does call for the ability for the individual in the capacity that's seeking assistance to utilize it in a way that they think is appropriate, whether they wanted to use it all at once or they wanted to utilize it in increments. It's certainly at their discretion. I think more so it's the ability to effectively market the program. And then if there's services, and I did ask Mr. Sherman the question, that what about the individuals that may just need help for a month or two because it's a holiday or a family emergency, et cetera. And he assured me that staff works through other philanthropic agencies and works with the county as well to provide other venues for assistance with utility bills. But Director Sherman is here to provide some any information or any clarity the board may have on the program.
All right. Anyone have any questions or comments? Or,
Yes.
Go ahead.
So is the application, the current application in the backup, or is this a new proposed?
No, that is the current application.
Okay. And I guess, and I'm sorry if I missed this, so are we suggesting to change that application?
One of the comments that was made from the dais was that some of the information as it relates to it, and going through this process, it effectively asks some personal questions, and those that have expressed interest in the program have said that they don't want to divulge some of the information contained in that, but that's the only mechanism that we have currently to effectively determine if in fact there is a need for the service that's being provided. So we wanted to bring this back before the board to see if there's any thoughts that you all may have with regards to making modifications to the program or any tweaks to the program. And if you would like a little bit more time to think about it, we can certainly put this back on a future agenda to have you have the opportunity to share the information with your constituents and then provide some feedback, because we did look at some other ways to modify the program, but we are looking to really do a media push and blitz and let folks know that this service is available, because I think there's only 168 people that have utilized this program in the last year, and obviously we know the need is a lot larger than that, so we need to probably do a better job in communicating in all different forms of communication tools we have at our disposal to see if people do need this assistance.
Madam Chair?
So, yeah. Go, 1 second. So what are some of the issues that people are having problems with providing? Their income?
It's, right, it's not that they don't have the documents that are requested, they just don't want to divulge it to the city.
So what is, we base it on the income level, right? Isn't that what
Correct.
we use? Okay.
Correct.
Ms. Lanier?
You made me forget what I was about to say. I think I wanted to ask about the issues with the application itself. I don't think that it was not only just the income. I think that the application itself was kind of cumbersome in terms of everything that they had to fill out. I don't see a copy of it though here. Is it?
It's pretty. It's a one-pager.
Just a
Yeah.
one page.
It's just a one-page, and
Yeah. And I will tell you that whether it's filled out downstairs or whether it's filled out over at the utility district, staff does sit with the individuals and, and assist those that ask for the assistance.
Madam Chair?
go ahead.
I think that the application that the county uses for utility assistance could be helpful.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
couple questions. Well, not just a couple, I got a group of questions. So, I certainly am looking at the resolution from 2009, and I think this was an initiative of my predecessor, Councilwoman Brooks, that, initially brought this. But I certainly want to be supportive. But my concern is the provision that that the person has to be 60 years of age. And for a couple reasons. So, as the resolution reads, so even if you're a disabled veteran or a disabled resident, the requirement, as I understand it, is that you still have to be 60 years of age. So, I would certainly kind of bring that to the board's attention as well as to staff, because it reads, must be a City of Riviera Beach resident, comma, be at least 60 years of age, comma, a disabled veteran or a disabled resident, and must meet the income eligibility requirements of low income as established annually by the Palm Beach County Department of Economic Sustainability. and be the water bill account holder and resident of the same address. So it almost seems like unless you meet every one of those qualifications, then, or at least if you, the bare minimum qualification is you're 65. And for me, it kind of seems like a little bit of reverse discrimination if we're giving preference to someone that's 60 years old and we're disregarding the veteran that has served a tour in Iraq and he's 30 years old or something like that.
I don't read, Madam Chair.
Hold on, you're finished with your group of questions?
Just want to
No, I
comment on
retained
this.
my time.
I want to comment on
Pro
Mr.
Tem.
McCoy's.
Hold on, Ms.
I'm looking at the
Botem.
resolution.
Okay, I'm looking at, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at the resolution. So unless, I guess if that program description says something different, then I was looking at the resolution.
I read it different.
Are you asking a question, or?
Well, I guess, so if Vice Chair, if you have something different that says something contrary to what I just said, then I'm not aware of it.
Go ahead.
Well, I read it that it's low-income senior citizens or low-income disabled veterans and additional eligible categories. I mean, I maybe we should ask Mr. Sherman.
No, look
Maybe
at the
we should-
whereas clause in the last paragraph on that list. That's, so you're looking at the title,
Yeah.
so look at the whereas clause.
But be at least 60 years of age, comma, a disabled veteran or a disabled resident. I mean, I read that as you can either be old, a veteran, I mean, or disabled. Not that you have to be all three.
Well, in fact, the program is called the Senior Utility Assistance
No,
Program.
it changed the name. It's not.
It's now
senior,
the Utility
it's
Assistance
utility
Program.
assistance.
But listen, on the, the
Application.
memo, looks like a memo, because it says, in order to receive assistance through this program, the applicant must meet the following eligibility requirements. The applicant must be a resident of the city of Riviera Beach and must be the water service account holder. The senior citizen applicant must be at least 60 years old. So, and then it says all applicants, including low-income disabled veterans and low-income disabled residents, must meet the household size and annual income limit. So, I mean, it's basically you need to be all of that. But what I'm thinking may have happened is when they changed the name of it, they didn't drop the sentence off about the senior citizen applicant must be at least 60.
If you look
So-
at the chart, if you look at the chart, it's
what-
broken up by senior citizens, disabled, and disabled senior veterans. So there's clearly, and one column that says senior and disabled. So it seems to me that the way it's been implemented is to either you're a senior and you get the benefit, or you're disabled senior veteran, and so on.
And I didn't know that that's the way it is, but the controlling document is the resolution that was authorized. So if staff is doing it some other way, this is great that we see that there are some, I guess, inconsistencies that we need to sort out. But I certainly don't want it to be a minimum age of 60 years old. So that's my first concern. And respectfully, the resolution is what I was reading, and that's how I understood it. So that's just the first concern that I have. Secondly, to the point that Board Member Lanier brought up regarding the requirements of the income, and I've said this before, the Palm Beach County's Office of Equal Business Opportunity that certifies minority and small and women business enterprises provides the options that you can come in and meet with a staff person and show them your tax return or show them your W-2, as opposed to submitting it with an application. That way it doesn't become a part of the public record. And I would like to see that, so an individual doesn't have to be concerned with, now my tax return is a public record at the city of Riviera Beach. So that would be the most important for me concern that I have with this process. Also, I would like, if we're gonna use that mechanism of allowing someone to show us the documents, then I would like to follow Palm Beach County's tax collector's office when you do an exemption for a business tax receipt and you do it under penalties of perjury. That way, you know, we're protecting ourselves, and if a person feels so inclined to mislead the city, then they're doing it under perjury, and there are some criminal penalties for that. So I would certainly recommend those three suggestions.
All right, anyone else?
So, Madam Chair, if I may, the direction that I'm getting from the board is to bring forward a new resolution that effectively cleans up the ambiguity or the opportunity for misinterpretation, also addressing the form, looking at what Palm Beach County has as it relates to the form, and then looking at a verification process where the documents can be shown, and then a staff person can initial that say they qualify, and there's no need for the city to effectively retain the documents as it will become a public record.
Yes. Now, I just had a question. Ms. Lanier, with the Palm Beach County, what was it that you were referring to for them to kind of mimic? Because they asked for a number way more than we asked for.
No, I'm gonna get some ideas in terms of how it could be laid out. You don't have to put everything that they have on there. But there's some key questions that are asked that you don't have to bring in certain documents based on the questions that you answer.
Okay.
And if I can add, I don't know if there's any relevance behind asking a potential applicant the date their disability was approved. I guess it would seem more appropriate to ask maybe, are you permanently disabled?
Yeah, we can work with legal to make sure the questions are appropriate and consistent with any other type of application for assistance through any other state or federal or county agencies.
And I would, if I could just take this second to say, I would like to see this process when it comes to the exemptions for BTRs on the city side. That way we can have some uniformity as to when a person goes to the utility billing window. It's not a whole separate set of requirements that's different. You know, if you wanted to do the fee exemption for a BTR compared to if you needed to do income assistance for a utility. So relatively the same, you know. Like, I don't want a person having to come in here and disclose their financial statement, you know, to get a waiver of $138 or something like that. So.
All right. So you have your direction for this item, correct?
Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, one additional update. Would the board be inclined to increase the cap that we have in the resolution from the 250? I know that would actually increase the budgeted amount, but right now we only have 168 currently taking advantage of the program, but our push is to try to get more residents involved. Would we have any interest to increase that resolution cap, since we're going to be putting more of an effort to actually getting this exposure to this program?
Yeah, I think we should, if I may. I think when we actually put this in, we were only issuing about $23,000.
Right.
So we thought the 50 was good. It was for a while, but yeah, we'll bring back a revised number on the cap.
And revised numbers so that we can get more residents involved in the program.
And
Thank you.
Councilman Lawson, to your point, I also would encourage us to increase it consistent with the rate increases in subsequent years. So it does continue to go up as well.
Thank you, yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm not sure, can you, the cap you're referring to, I'm not sure I understand what that is.
Section 3 of the resolution reads that there's 250 residents that we're capped at, not to exceed 50,000 for the utility assistance program. And that was based on fiscal year from 2016.
Okay.
So.
And your suggestion is to increase it to, or just remove it altogether? Well, actually, I think, you know, it might be a good idea just to remove it altogether. And
Remove it altogether, correct.
If that number so far exceeds where we don't have the money, then do we have a contingency on utility district that we would be able to revisit this interim?
No, these dollars have to come from the general fund.
Because we still have to pay for the service.
Right.
But, you know, based on the historical data and the information that we have, for the 168 accounts, the total cost has been $69,000. And that's something that, as during your annual budget appropriation process, that's something that we can bring up and kind of give you year-to-date, real-time information, and you can make adjustments accordingly.
It's only been 69,000
$69,000 total cost
for the year or since inception?
For the year.
for the year.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? All right. Discussion by the Executive Director of the Utility Special District or the City Manager.
Ms. Jacobs, I'll let you go first if you have anything, and then I
Okay.
have something.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Madam Chair, actually, there are two items that our staff wanted to bring to your attention. The first one deals with Mrs. Botel's inquiry, the free chlorine flush project. It's also known as the burn project. Archie, could you come up and explain it to our city council?
Good evening, City Manager, Board. My name is Archie Carbajal, Water Treatment Plant Superintendent. The reason for the chlorine burn, what it does, it kills off the bacteria that may grow over a year's period. A chlorine burn, to put in layman's terms, is the plant right now treats the water with chloramines. It's an ammonia chlorine mixture of 5:1 ratio. We remove the ammonia and we strictly just run chlorine, which provides a stronger disinfection, but it doesn't last as long in the system. The chlorine burn is to be done minimum of yearly due to our consent order. Until we do our unilateral flushing, we are mandated to do it biannually. So that, and hopefully that explains what you were inquiring about the chlorine burn. Did that help you any?
It does, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I posted something on Nextdoor Singer Island about the definition of free chlorine and a little bit of a description from the CDC.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, that might be something we would want to put on our webpage so that people have the word from the CDC about what the effects of this can be and what things they have to watch out for if they have aquariums or if they have people who use certain types of medical devices that need the water.
Sure.
Madam Chair, actually, if you read the correspondence that you have before you that was just passed out, it does, it explains quite a bit the effects or the ramifications regarding that particular process. But we're also coming up with ways where we can go ahead and send these notices out to the public so that they'll be aware of what's about to occur
Thank you.
sooner than later.
All right. You had something else? Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, there was an inquiry that came from one of the board members with regards to the progress that was made with a pothole matter, a USD pothole matter.
Yes.
So we wanted to bring that to your attention as well with regards to what actually happened and what we did to resolve that particular issue.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Joe Jackson will apprise you of that particular issue.
All right.
My name is
Good
Joseph
evening.
Jackson,
Good
Chief Water
evening.
Sewer Maintenance Mechanic for the Utility District. It was brought to our attention about a pothole by Lift Station 1A, which is on H Avenue. We worked in that area about 6 years ago. I thought it was the same area, but it wasn't. It was across the street. But what we did was we investigated. We actually repatched the hole, made sure everything was safe so everybody can drive on it. And then we televised the line, the sewer line that runs through that area. We didn't find anything that was evident that said it caused the pothole, but as a precautionary measure, we're gonna try to slip line that line going across the street. So it'll be a one continuous pipe with no joints in it. So that's gonna be our fix. We did pave it again, so it's not a sinkhole anymore, but just as a precautionary measure, we're gonna use slip lining to kind of take care of the pipe.
Do you all know when you'll be doing that?
I have to do a scope of work and then get 3 quotes, and then after that, we can get it done. Can't give you a date 'cause I don't know how fast the quotes will come in and anything, but once it comes in, I can give you an update.
Is it an unsafe area where it's going to give in or blow up?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam
Did you
Chair?
have anything, Mr. Lawson?
Yes. Ms. Deidre, if you could just give the residents the contact information and how they can actually address some of these concerns, because this was actually acknowledged through social media, and I want to make sure that the residents have the opportunity to reach out directly to Utility District. If you give the website or the phone number out that they can contact if they see something like this.
With regards to the pothole,
With regards to those issues, yes,
sure. You want me to go ahead and read the phone number?
please.
Yes, sir. The phone number to the utility district is 561-845-4185. And while we're on that particular subject, would ask Mr. Jackson if he can let you know of the city's plan to have a monitoring system that's set up not only for this particular instance, but for potholes in general that we were aware of, other potholes,
Okay.
or I should say potential potholes.
Currently, we just purchased some equipment that we needed, was a long time overdue, a new camera truck, which y'all approved, a couple months back, and also a vac truck that was to be used to televise all the gravity mains. Once we, find any issues, we had monies put together, put aside for, slip lining. So we find the issue inside of the pipe, we can get it slip lined rather quickly instead of trying to go through the whole procurement process. We'll have money set aside to go, to fix the problem.
All right.
And Madam Chair, with regards to the slip line, when we do that, it does add, probably 20 to 30 years of life to the actual infrastructure that is being, the slip line is being utilized for. So it is something that also shores up the pipe and makes sure that there's safe flow of water or wastewater.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
And Ms. Jacobs, I wanted to thank you and Mr. Jackson for jumping on this immediately, because this issue was brought to our attention just within the last 24 hours, and you guys literally handled it quickly and efficiently, so thank you so much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes, I concur with that as well. I know when Mr. Evans heard about it, he definitely said that you all would get on it the next morning, so I appreciate that as well.
Well, Board Member,
What?
Board Member Lawson, how did you come to find out about it? Well, no, so I just wanted to say the common practice is that individuals in the community tag you on a post on social media, and it's almost like now you have to address it. So I just wanted to, I think it's kind of funny, like when there's an issue in the community, they don't call your office, they reach out on social media and they tag all of the elected officials, so.
And that's why I asked Ms. Jacobs to read into the record the phone number that our residents can call instead of tagging us on social media, so.
And then too, sometimes I'm never on there, and that's probably not a good way to reach out. So, and I only found out because somebody else told me about it, so.
So our goal for our residents that are watching, and just to kind of get the word out, is that they have a direct contact. So we give our very best to jump on an issue that comes to us, but if the issue is not addressed properly, going through the proper channels, then there's nothing that truly can be done. Because if we don't monitor our social media in that aspect, that's not what it's there for. We're not utilizing social media to address concerns in the community. That's where these phone numbers need to be reached out to.
I agree with you, Mr. Lawson. Thank you for that follow-up, Mr. McCoy. All right, anything else?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I wanted to bring the board up to speed with a conversation that will occur with the town of Mangonia Park. On Friday, we have provided them notice that we do not intend to extend the contract that we have with them for the provision of utility services. And we are going to attempt to collect well over $500,000 of monies that has not been expended or has not been collected by the city of Riviera Beach for some time now. This is a situation that the city has experienced dating back into 2012, 2017, and again here in 2019. Our approach from the staff side is obviously to collect the monies that are being held from the town of Mangonia Park. And the concerning part about this, and I want to bring this to the attention to the board and obviously the public, that the city residents of Riviera Beach are subsidizing another government entity that is charging their residents for the service, and we are providing the service, and they are not receiving, we are not receiving payment for that. And so legal and myself and the finance director have decided to move in a direction that is still consistent, that we do not want to entertain or extend the contract unless the behavior with our partner agency is going to change and that payment is going to be remitted on time, because at the end of the day, we lose interest and we lose revenue associated with the products that we are providing and the treatment process that occurs. And so I'm asking the board if you would agree with staff's position that we are not going to discuss or consider entertaining a new contract unless there is going to be an understanding that the fees for services that are charged by the city of Riviera Beach are paid in a timely fashion, that the remaining balance of $500,000 is cured, and then at that point, then we would consider moving forward with the possibility of negotiating in good faith for a longer-term agreement. But we don't want to move in that space if it's not the desire from the board to effectively do that. So I'm asking for your blessing to take a stern approach and to move forward to have these issues corrected, so we're not consistently going through this issue year after year after year.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, how long have we had this partnership contract with Magnolia Park?
Ms. Busby, do you happen to have that?
So for
Ten?
wastewater services, I believe it's, we just completed almost a 14-year contract. We still have a year left on the contract, or a little bit less than a year. So it was for 15 years, the term.
And how long, Mr. Evans, could you repeat, have they been delinquent on fees too?
They were once delinquent in 2012. In 2017, they were delinquent about $330,000, and then I met with them and was able to obtain payment for the delinquent amount. And then that's when they wanted to have a joint meeting with the board to talk about a wholesale rate versus the rate that they're paying now. Based on the analysis that the city went through to look at an alternative rate, which previous councils authorized as far as the expenditure, but never adopted an alternate rate, they took the stance that they were going to pay the alternate rate that was a reduced rate, and have not been remitting all the monies that is due to the city. So there hasn't been consistent payment since that rate study was complete. And so now you have a balance of well over $503,000. So they've 2012, 17, and now well into 19, and going into 20.
So from 2012 and 2017, did they rectify those balances that were owed to the city after your meeting in 17, you said?
In 17, they did cure their balance, yes, sir.
Okay.
And I did try to take the same approach once I arrived here, but they did not decide to come into compliance because they believed that there was legislative intent by the previous council, which there was no document that memorialized that or resolution that was passed to effectuate that. And so they have been taking our bill, reducing it accordingly, and then sending us the check.
Okay. Would you be able to provide us just a memorandum with the revenue that we've generated from Magnolia Park over the last 10 years? And I definitely agree that we want to be compensated for the services we've provided. So I'm for taking a strong stance on making sure that we can cure that balance prior to renegotiating the new contract. But I also want to see what type of revenue we've received from them over the last 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, can you repeat and further clarify? Did I understand you, well, I guess, Assistant City Attorney Busby, you said wastewater, correct? For 15 years?
Yes, this is a contract for wastewater services.
So do we provide potable water to them as well?
Yes, sir.
And this wastewater that we're providing to them, we treat that through the ECR, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Do they have any board, do they have a position on the ECR board?
No.
And we pay a premium to be a part of that, in addition to the potable water services that we provide.
Absolutely, and we have the payment that we have made, and Director Sherman can correct me if I'm wrong, the payment that we have made to be a member of the ECR and them not paying their amount, we have still been subsidizing that as well.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
So, a couple things. If I can remember correctly, and I tried, Mr. Sherman, in reviewing bond documents, I thought I remember seeing a provision about if this was to occur, if we gave them a wholesale rate, there had to be a separate class. Am I correct?
That is correct. You would have to create a class that benefits the residents and the end user, the residents and the end users and the system. And that is the challenging part as it relates to finding a wholesale rate, because then I would argue the other point, you have other government entities that we partner up with, and then the Port of Palm Beach that is a sovereign, quote-unquote, government entity. There is a, if you offer it for one entity, you look to conceivably offer it to another. And we as a city are going through the process of looking at a new water treatment process and investments in infrastructure. And so if you reduce the amount of revenue that's collected, it's more money that our residents and end users are going to invariably be on the hook for.
So let me just make sure I'm clear. So you're saying the wholesale rate, which I think comes by way of us establishing a separate class,
Correct.
was never reduced to an agreement?
That is correct.
And they're operating as if there is an agreement?
Correct. They're operating based on the understanding that there was legislative intent, because the consultant did go ahead and provide a wholesale rate, did not provide the legal rationale necessary to say that it complies with what bond counsel needs to create that subclass, but they said, here's the rate, what the rate could be for a wholesale rate, and that's the rate that they have been paying.
And over 500,000, is that the difference in the actual rate and what they believe their wholesale rate is?
Yes, sir.
So they have been remitting what they believe is the wholesale rate, but not what our adopted rate is for them.
What our agreement calls for, yes, sir.
Okay, you know, it's really tough, and I guess I don't understand those classes probably, and I would defer to Mr. Sherman on it, but the city of Mangonia can't get rate for less than what we provide it to our own residents. That's the very first thing. And not only that, I think it's a benefit that we're doing it. And if they're collecting the money, they have to be forwarding us that money. They're essentially, you know, I don't want to call it profiting, but they are profiting off of our water. And we have constant, you know, countless number of calls about, you know, individuals that have high water bills, and sometimes, you know, we can't do anything about it. So, yeah, you certainly have my full support to try to recoup that difference that's owed to us. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding, you know, how did we get here and what is their explanation? Do they have any intentions on complying? Because I think I told you in a private meeting, my option would be to do an annexation. If they don't want to pay their bills, then we can legislatively try to move to annex them into the city. That'll, you know, then we can give them the same rate as the residents.
Well, and Councilman McCoy, to your point, we have had the internal discussions. If it is an inability to be able to run their utility infrastructure and system, that the city of Riviera Beach would be interested being the utility provider and taking control of the asset. And so we'll definitely see what the conversations allow for, but I think it's important that we draw a proverbial line in the sand and take a stance that we're not going to entertain the extension if the remaining balance is not cured in a expedited fashion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, anyone else?
Well,
Yes.
I think for the purpose of clarity, do we want to put a motion to, because, you know, I don't want it to be any confusion about us collecting our money. And it's very important when we have to sit here and talk about doing a utility assistance program for individuals that are less fortunate, but we are giving our neighbors next door a huge subsidized rate. So, you know, if we can offer a motion, or if that's preferred, you know, I would be open.
Councilman, that actually would be preferred, because I think it then shows that the council is lockstep with the direction that staff is looking to move in, and I think it will assist us in the negotiations on the 20th.
Wanna make it?
Sure. If, Madam Chair, can I be recognized for a motion?
Most definitely.
I move to allow city manager and utility district to recover, you know, the funds owed from the town of Mangonia Park by means necessary, that the means that the manager deems necessary.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Chairperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Botel,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
All right, anything else?
Thank you. That concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
All right, did we have any public comment cards?
Madam Chair, there are no public comment cards.
Okay. Statements by the district board, starting down with Mr. Lawson.
Yes, Madam Chair. I was just looking to see if I could get an update from Mr. Evans in reference to the search for an executive director for utility district.
Madam Chair, we have posted the position online, and staff has had some internal conversations with HR about looking at expanding the search. We do have a couple of qualified candidates, but we haven't found the right candidate for the position, but we're looking to expand that. And now that we have Ms. Rosalind Dickerson, our Human Resources Director, on board, she's going to source with some of her peers in the HR industry to see if we can expand that search out and hopefully see if it can materialize in the next 30 to 45 days. Of course, during the holidays time, it's really hard to get people to apply for jobs, but we're moving forward to look for a long-term solution.
So what I'd be looking for also, Mr. Evans, is someone that's inclined to be prepared for the advancement, the development of our new plant, and making sure that we give them that direction, that we're looking to actually have a new plant within the next 5 to 7 years, and somebody that's actually worked with a similar plant that we're actually looking to incorporate.
Absolutely, and our consultant, Mr. Nigel Grace with Brown and Caldwell, is also helping us to talk with his peers throughout the state about the possibilities here in Riviera Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
All right,
Thank
Ms.
you, Madam
Lanier.
I'd just like to thank the Assistant City Manager, Ms. Jacobs, on the great job that she's doing with the utility district, because that's a lot of work and it's very technical. So I really appreciate your commitment to it. I really do.
Thank you, Mrs. Lanier.
All right, Mr. McCoy,
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Ms. Dr. Votel.
Just to echo Ms. Councilperson Lanier's thanks to Deirdre Jacobs for the great job she's doing, but I'll save my other remarks for the council meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Botel.
And of course, thank you, since we're in the mood of thanking everybody. Well, thank you all. All right, we'll be back in 5 minutes. With that, we stand adjourned.
Hey, John.